Hi, welcome to Jadkind Gaming. I'm Adam. Today I'm going to be unboxing the Star Wars Age of Rebellion beginner game. It's been, it was one of the early videos I did. I unboxed the Edge of the Empire beginner game. And essentially what it is Fantasy Flight Games, who made this nearly a year ago, around a year ago. This is now the second of three sort of compatible, interchangeable role-playing game systems with slightly different themes. Edge of the Empire was the, being on the outskirts of the Empire, Tatooine, those kind of outer core. Age of Rebellion is taking part of the rebellion, and then the other one's going to be something about being the last Force users being hunted down. Anyways, they're all set in the original trilogy sort of time period. Ultimately, I've never even played. One of my friends bought more books, and we just haven't gotten around to it. We've been running GURPS and other games. But the contents were decent. I said I wasn't going to store it in the box, but since I've never played it even, it's just stayed in the box. This box is the same flimsy material, but apparently, unless I end up using it a bunch, it doesn't really matter. It'll be what it ends up being kept in anyways. And if we... you got whatever, it'll look back. And I think I got a spot. So yeah, it is Fantasy Flight Games again. They're making three role-playing games that have slightly different rules from what I've heard, but essentially they're the kind of thing where you can even make one campaign that uses characters from each. Just a general look in here like before. Has this cardboard insert to fill space, and otherwise it's not nearly as full as it might otherwise look. It has their catalog of other Fantasy Flight Games stuff to purchase. So dice, and again, facing this way, you flip it over so that you then flip each one. To read this first, they're not playing this game. It doesn't look like in this one like they were in the last one. That was a cool picture. Again, it is from the beginning. It does not assume that you have the previous one. This is a fresh start, a whole new role-playing game. So, what is a role-playing game? Who are players? How to use maps? An example of play. And I guess probably, a little opening scroll to tell you about it. We got the, read this second, the adventure book. And this should, again, I'm guessing this is pretty much going to follow the same setup as before. Like, this book is for the Game Master only. If you're a hero player, choose a hero character, folio, and give this booklet to the GM. The contents of the box. Essentially, it's a story. Takeover at Whisper Base. It has a map. They have their encounter, and then essentially the boxes here that explain the mechanics. Preparing skill check, core mechanic, dice pool, success or failure, advantage or threat, going over the mechanics of what these dice do. Time to begin combat, initiative, taking turns, possible actions. It's just going over, essentially, it has, and in between all this, it has the story, the characters perform a second move, right, bits of story, and, as it teaches you about opposed checks, and as the game goes, the book goes further through, you see less of those boxes and more just the story. Then, you get some expanded rules sections here for where they go more information into it. Interlude experience in Destiny. They go what Destiny is, which I believe Destiny is, from what I remember, is something in this one that was different than in the previous one. It's like there's a same but different pool, essentially. You know, chase, vehicle characteristics, starship and vehicle combat. You know, the gunner, engineer, pilot, characters on speeder bikes. Ooh, that sounds fun. Other encounters that can be had at the base. Wrapping it up, giving us spoils, experience, and further adventures, tips for GMs. And then, while we're at this point, I will go over the dice that are included in here, which I believe are the same as were included in the previous one. But essentially there are 3, what it says are ability dice, 2 proficiency dice, 3 difficulty, a challenge, 2 boost, 2 setback, and a force. So those are the dice, and they all have, as you can see, weird symbols, and they're the mechanics that this game uses, and they're the reason why, at the very least, you want to get one of these starter sets, because it gives you an intro to the game at the same point as letting you get the dice that otherwise are half the cost of the set itself. I guess this is an advertisement for the core rulebook to keep going. We have the map. And the map here, it looks like, you know, essentially falls under the same general idea. It has a map on, that's upside down, a map on this side, the Whisper base, no grid, it has essentially just all the different areas labeled, so there's your map, and then on the other side it has 3 different sections. One is the comm tower, which if you notice is referenced is here, or I guess here, and then exploded there. The other is the launch pad, which I guess is, yeah, which is on the other side. So essentially it has these sections of it, and then it has just the overall map. So it's a general map. Maybe you get some nicer detail of the Whisper base map. Where it goes, you know, enters into there, and this section here can then actually be referenced on this side with more detail. The Nadios, I guess, is the ship that's in there. Spacecraft control. You got the comm tower, and just your big area, the Ondarian jungle map here. So that's the general map for the game, and we get these 4, which these 4 are our characters. We have, the first one here is Kale, the soldier, and I'll just go, you know, primarily over one here. Essentially, the actual character sheet is here in the middle, and it actually gives you some great, you know, explanation about the game on the sides. You know, what characteristics and skills are, skills, the symbols on the dice and what the dice are. That's great, very useful for learning the new system with the dice. They really went over the fact that they're aware they're changing how dice work, and they explain it in here. They go over, you know, things like whatever. The soak value is like there. They go over these items here, over here. And then they go over what a player can do on their turn. And then they tell them, stop here, don't turn the page until instructed to by the GM. And what turning the page does is it allows you to upgrade. So you choose one of these upgrades. It teaches you how to advance your character. So like here, you could, one is upgrade medicine, which was 0 before, so if you choose this one, you upgrade it to 1. How that affects the dice that you roll. Or the melee skill is another option. Or you could do the point blank talent, which will, let's see. Oh, we'll just read it. Point blank, when you hit a target at short or engaged range with a weapon that uses ranged heavy or ranged light, like your heavy blaster, rifle, pistol, or grenade, you deal an extra damage. So essentially you can take that talent, or you could get the toughened talent, which has its benefit there. So they have the advancement, and then at the same time they still have over here, they go over, again, since you're probably still learning it, what the symbols mean, the dice, and what's on your turn. Stop, don't continue, until told, and then when you do, you essentially get what is a blank character sheet where you can actually upgrade it, and you have the soldier talent tree here that goes all through, you know, so continuing to play. So you can just keep playing this character afterwards. So that was Kale the soldier. Then we get, and on the back of each one they have their story. Like this one is Tendar the engineer. It's a trap. You know, same thing. Starting character, first advancement, continuing to advance your character. Then Vendry the spy. Who's a spy? Same thing. Starting character with the information, advanced, continued with, you know, this time is the spy talent tree and what those do. And it goes over here, investing experience points, and at this point it's just the names of the symbols, so you can reference those, or of course you could flip back if you're still learning. In the back, as always, the story, and then Zal the ace. Same as before, yep, as expected. And then we get these, which are little pawns. In plastic. I think in the last one they were actually in a Ziploc bag. They are not this time. I could be wrong. I could have put them in just like had whatever. If I just had a nice, perfect size Ziploc bag from some other game that I wasn't using it in. That is possible. But I'll point out here, these symbols here are different on one side than the other, but pretty much all the characters are the same on both sides. We have where you get the whatever the ship, the spaceship one, a couple walkers, the speed bikes. You get whatever, some scout troopers, stormtroopers, alien guys. These guys are like whatever on, you know, the Empire. We get the 4 heroes, or heroes, and a couple other characters. Those are usually good people. Some alien people. Yeah. So, you know, you get tokens to use for how they explain to use the maps. And then, read this book last, is the rule book. And it just goes further into the rules for the game. You pretty much already know a lot of the rules if you played through the actual adventure. But anyways, it goes over the dice, what the dice symbols are, basic dice pool, building a dice pool, interpreting the pool, other types of checks, because they went with, I mean, I've heard good reviews on how the system works in practice. It's just learning it, and just the work they put into making sure you understand it means they know that it's going to be a bit of a struggle to learn, but I've heard that it works really well in practice. They go over destiny points, how to invest experience, what you do on your turn, what actions you can take, soak, which is a stat on your character, different ranges, combat modifiers, and they go into skills section. They have, you know, different descriptions of the skills: gunnery, medicine, mechanics, leadership, etc., etc., survival, talents. They go into the talent trees. Just break each one of those down based on how you activate it, if it's ranked or not, and the description of the talent. They go into gears and equipment, weapons, weapon qualities, weapon characteristics. They got the table. They got armor and other gear. They go starships and vehicles. That's fun. Different, whatever. I don't really know how starships and vehicles work, but they do go over the stats for those. Combat for starships and vehicles. And then they give starship and vehicle profiles, where they have the TIE or LN Starfighter, TIE IN Starfighter, the X-Wing. They go into adversaries, so these are whatever Imperial Army Trooper, Imperial Army Officer, smugglers. You know, they go into, essentially these are this is like the monster manual, the couple pages, and then an index. Of course, on the back, the dice, the symbols again, and the skill list. So I mean, it's a learning the game. That's what the set is for. It's to teach you the game. It's supposed to be interchangeable, but different from, you know, Edge of the Empire. Age of Rebellion here is supposed to mean it's a different game, but it's pretty much the same rules. Like, I'm sure, essentially the idea is, you know, if you know how the dice work, those are going to work the same, so that'll be the kind of thing that will carry over. But if you're, you know, you're looking into getting into the system, and you're more on the idea of you want to actually be part of the rebellion as opposed to just freelancers hiding on the, you know, outskirts of civilization, then this would be better for you. Regardless, either way, the dice are the same. And the dice, if I remember correctly, to get like a pack of these dice is like half the cost of the beginner game, which gives you the tokens, the map, an example encounter, just sort of, and sort of an overview. Personally, my thought with it was start with this to see if you enjoy it before you put out the money for the full rulebook. And even if, let's say, you're going to do that, like let's say you got the rulebook for the first one, but you don't have the dice yet. Then if you get this one, then you have the dice, and you get a little taste of the other system, which has minor differences. A lot of the things I've heard is differences like essentially choices with what characters you can play and what equipment there is the majority of stuff. But as I said, I've not really played it, so I'm not 100%. Most of it looks pretty much the same. I went over the first one before doing this just to sort of get the idea of what I was going to look at. I had that option, so I knew what was coming, and it was very similar. It's just more so, I mean, if you liked that one and you're just interested in seeing, you know, more of this, it's a good option. That is the Age of Rebellion beginner box for Star Wars, the Fantasy Flight Games role-playing game. Check it out, and have a good day.